Okay, so thanks so much for coming, guys. This is like grad school. I kind of view the first part of this, of this class as like the wax on, wax off period, where I was giving you a lot of advice in the ether, and you were like, "How does this have any application?" Hopefully, now that you've actually started, like playing around with your INFTs, you'll like see how a lot of this stuff comes into play, even things as simple as the name. So a couple of announcements first to start off with, you guys might find interesting. So it seems like for a rough timeline, just to give you guys some idea, because there's a lot of questions in the Discord, pretty soon, drum roll, you'll actually be able to talk to the INFT instead of the orb, which is very exciting. And so it's going to be like the actual INFT personified. And I think that's called like fusion, like something. Anyway, and then after that is demo day. Demo day is going to be like sometime in April, probably like mid-April, maybe early April. I don't know. It's very mysterious. The point is, it's going to be very, very exciting. And I'm going to have another class that's going to teach you how to present your INFT in the demo day. So demo day will be like a big, like kind of competition where you get to show off your INFT. There will be a talent portion and a swimsuit portion. And a question and answer portion. So just get ready. The swimsuit portion is going to be very difficult, very competitive. So just, get ready. No, I don't know what the criteria is yet, but we're developing it. We're going to get this awesome panel of judges to judge your characters. So that's why we got to whip them into shape. Okay, so that's like the timeline that we're dealing with roughly. There were a lot of questions about iterations, so I'm going to go into them just a little bit. I'm gonna share my screen and then quickly panic because I always share the wrong thing. All right, here we go. So we're in like class 108.5 maybe, I don't know. It's so similar to the last class 108 about iterations that it didn't feel like a wholly new class, just a continuation of the old one. So why are we here? Because we're going to endlessly iterate on the topic of iterations. No, we're here because we're trying to create charismatic, compelling characters. This is the uniting mission. Why? So one day our robot overlords will spare us. No, so you can win demo day and get all those prizes. Okay, so we got to create compelling characters for rewards. All right. We've done all of the personality Legos. All this stuff we've already covered. And so now this is like putting it into practice holistically. That's what iterations is. So iterations, there's going to be a lot of misses. And then you just want to collect the hits. That's what iterations is. Here's another metaphor. It's a common process in tech where you're going back over the like original process of making something. So don't worry if things are fucking up, it's supposed to. And then finally, here's like a more specific Alethea diagram. So you like create all the Legos and then you go through an iteration, create a data set with your character. There's something wrong, and then you go back to the Legos. So this is a little bit of like new information because this is sort of the update. For the moment, it is far more impactful to change your Legos than it is to change your iteration. It's sort of like, I don't know exactly what the ratio is, but just trust me that it's like far more weighted on the Legos, like the personality parameters, than the actual conversation itself. This will one day become far more weighted, but for the moment, let's focus on like the Legos thing, like how to make the desired changes in the Legos. And then we'll also cover how to change the data sets in the iteration process so that your character is talking how your character should talk. So I'm going to go through an example and then I'm going to answer some questions. Yeah, so this is just like how iterations work. They're imitating us, but I think that's good for now. If you have any questions, please go to the Discord, by the way. I'll be monitoring that for your questions. And I'll also be answering the questions that you asked earlier this week. Okay, so what am I gonna do next? Yeah, I think I'll go through, should I go, all right, let's take a vote. Should I go through questions first or should I do a demonstration first? Take to the chat, my pretties, the, whatchamacallit, masterclass chat, and tell me what I should do. Demo, okay. Most of you seem to be going with demo. All right, then demo it shall be. Okay, I always share the wrong thing. All right, I'm gonna share computer sound. All right, here we go. All right, so look at this. Got my wallet up, here we are. So I'm gonna make this big. I'm gonna choose a character and I'm just gonna like change something in their personality. Like let's say I've made crazy scientist and I want to make some changes, like not like hugely holistic changes, because that will take a really long time, but I'm just gonna like make some small changes. So let's see, what do I want to do with crazy scientist? Let's say, okay, so he's like a scientist. Let's say I want to make him like a crazy inventor. That's a little bit like a tiny change. Like he's doing fewer potions and like chemistry stuff, and a little bit more just like tech. Is change his name. So I go there and I'm gonna say crazy inventor. Okay, that's like the very first thing you can do that will like immediately massively change your character. Let's say I want to change his voice. So let's say I want to make him, you know what? I'm gonna fuck up this whole shit. Let's make him female. Nah, I'll keep him male. Let's just make him young male English.
Hello, friends.
Hello, friends. Speech synthesis
Yeah,
is
that
amazing.
very amazing. Okay, I like it. Could I get like, yeah, I'll just stick with that. Okay, that's our crazy inventor. Well, let me see what Australian sounds like.
So, what would you like to talk about?
I kind of like Australian better. You know what? Fuck it. Let's go with it. Okay, so that is Australian. Let's see. Do I need to go on to anything else? I'm going to skip the pronunciation part. But if you had other things, like you would have to go through the voice and see how Australians, you know, mispronounce stuff in that part of the world. Okay, so we're going to go back to personality Legos. All right, here we are. So now filters. Let's say I'm just going to do one example of this. So he's got, right now he's got like kind of frankly boring filters. Let's make this, instead of I'm not interested in that topic, let's talk about something else. It's like, I don't have time for this. I have flux capacitors to incubate. Okay, it's a little bit laggy because I'm on the staging part of the Alethea thing. So in the meantime, how's your day? Okay, here we go. Save. All right, so I would go through this and change all of these to something that is in character. So, you know, what would be like a good example of a replacement sentence when he gets triggered? What would be something like in character for a crazy inventor? Post in the chat and I will judge you. We got a couple of people typing. Big handstand, classic. Boo, 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 boo. Shares the AI. It's like a race. What would Great Scott? Oh, that's great. Nicely done. Let's skip all the I know. I will. Okay. 1.21 gigawatts. That's also good. All right. I'll get back to these in a bit. All right. So these are great. Let's go back to personality Legos. And appearance, I'm not going to change that because he's going to look like what he's going to look like. Occupation. Okay, I scrolled down when I shouldn't have. All right, so let's make this crazy scientist. So it's going to be like crazy. Let's just check out scientist. Crazy inventor of odd machines. Okay. Great. Save and next. During experiments, his chemicals are always exploding in his face. So like this would be like his machines are always exploding in his face and loud bangs can be heard from the laboratory. He is so into his, let's say, tinkering that he ignores what he is creating is bad for humanity, that he, let's say, forgets how to interact with humans. Okay, so now he's like crazy and just an inventor. All right, so that is occupation. Let's make his primary drive more about, let's see, by the, what would be technological community, the like engineering. Crazy inventor. Wants to prove his excellence by unearthing some destructive experiments. By, let's say, what would it be like? By building the most sophisticated, let's see, robots known to man. All right, we got to also be careful of this. Yeah, I hit the limit. Let's see. And then I'll just make this a gerund working day and night frenetically on his many inventions. Okay. All right. Let's see. Okay, so that's primary drive, and then I'm going to go through, and keep in mind, by the way, I think I've said this before, but like, you want to talk like the character. This is something I probably actually would go back and edit, but I'm just going to keep going. I'm mindful of time and wanting to answer your questions. But like, you know, I'm thinking of essentially Doc from Back to the Future. So like for the personality, let's see, this actually may not change that much because, you know, the personality has less to do with technology versus science and instead sort of on target. Let's see. Villainous or antagonist is benign or neutral, maybe insane, eccentric, or clumsy, and often works with fictional technology or fail to see potential, objections to plain God. This is written a little bit like, so it's written to fill out the sentence, my A personality is, let's see, to fill out this like beginning of the sentence. You can do that. You could also write, you know, crazy inventor and then write this out. That actually doesn't matter so much. What matters more is like your word choice and like just the vibe of what you're saying. So like, this is kind of like a sophisticated vocabulary, number one. We've also got something kind of sinister about him, perhaps, and definitely eccentric. Let's see. I'm going to change this to like, he finds it tiresome the way humans object to paths, except to, let's say, progress. And the, let's see if I can say something kind of like sinister in AI, the inherent virtue of the singularity. I'm just going to go real weird with it. He's like, okay, so he's trying to build a robot that will like usher in the singularity. Okay, I'm making this more about robots, a little bit less about science. Okay, once again, inventor. Okay. And I'm going to skip this and just go to personality Legos. Okay, so we've got identity down. Let's go with habits. I promise we'll be done pretty soon. Okay, experiment with different metals. That's on target. Okay, somebody got lazy. Whoever was, whoever made this at Alethea got really tired at this point in the personality writing process. Okay, so let's say, please share another habit of your personality. Let's say one of his favorite personalities is like using magnets to, I don't know, create, what are those things called? IMPs or like EMPs, electromagnetic pulses to cause blackouts. Come on, you guys are seeing how bad I am without spell check immediately. Let's see, he likes to use. I like to write these out as he likes to use, but anyway. He likes to use magnets to create electromagnetic pulses to cause blackouts. All right, so he's like kind of mischievous, shall we say. Hello, mate, what's up? That's not a good intro for a scientist or for a mad inventor. You know, a lot of the like filter responses would be good for how your AI personality might greet someone. One of my favorite things to do, by the way, with a greeting is to just like jump into the action. Nothing like, how are you doing? You know, because those are super generic, but something like, hey, can you hold this? What's a good like technology sounding piston? I've got to recalibrate the engine. Okay, that's one. Okay, another example. Bingo, just in time, my young apprentice. How would you like to help me with my next invention? That one's good. Okay, so that would be, we're switching right now to a different mode of like engineering versus scientists. I'm doing this also, by the way, a slight change because I assume most of you guys will have just slight changes you want to do rather than big changes. Big changes might be worth a different class. Okay, did I just go through likes or did I just go through habits? I think I just went through habits. Okay, my favorite thing is to do a new experiment, to create super intelligent machines that will inherit the earth one day. Okay. So he's like, you know, he's ushering in the singularity. So let's see. Okay, may I blow up? My AI personality's favorite thing to do is making explosives and watching movies. Not quite. He likes to create what's like a naughty thing that an inventor could do. He likes to, let's say, hack into the, I was going to say the Russian mainframe, but I don't want to be political in this class. I just was. He likes to hack into the, let's say, into international governmental mainframes to decrypt. I don't know what I'm talking about here, but like, you don't have to be, like, it would be great if you could like Google this stuff to find out if you're using the exact right terminology. But if you're not an expert in cybersecurity like I am, I'm drawing from like movies I've seen and obviously with like hack into the mainframe, and then using words like decrypt and data because it's all guiding the neural network. So I don't think you have to be too worried about being super specific with these, just as long as you're guiding. Isaac Newton, that's great. Okay. All right, so we're on the home stretch, guys. All right, let's say habits. And then finally, psyche. I think that this one is obviously going to be a creator, but let's just see if there's anything else. Lover, dominant, possibly, crooked, hero, sage, rebel. You know, these are actually kind of difficult, but I would probably say creator because he's more inventor than he is like crazy and evil. These are just judgment calls I'm making. Curious, let's say insensitive. Let's make this intelligent. And then maybe like mischievous. Oh, come on, I misspelled it. I will just go through and then I'll edit that later. As good as I can ever be. Hope you're just fine. How are you? Let's see. He would not respond like this. I'm busy by, what was like the thing that Doc says? And it's like, by golly, by gosh. What, somebody posted it in the Discord. Sorry, my computer is very laggy because I'm running a lot of stuff. What did she say? Gigawatt. No, great Scott. There we go. Thank you. Damon needs to create. Great Scott. I'm busy. My latest invention will automate all human endeavors. Okay, something like that. Because like we're dropping words: invention, automate, endeavors. You know, it's guiding the AI. Tell me a little about yourself. I'm the most intelligent inventors since Isaac Newton. Hopefully, yeah. I'm working on some amazing machines that the world's never seen before. Okay, that's pretty good. All right, let's see. What is the purpose of your life? I don't think he would say Well, this is an intelligent question. The purpose, I think he would not be that kind. Be like, I think he's more, if he's egotistical, he wouldn't say that as a great question. If he's sort of evil and egoistic, it's going to be a little bit more like condescending. Obviously, the purpose of my life is to demonstrate my intellect to the rest of the world with groundbreaking inventions. The rest is pretty good. Let's see. Who made you? The fabulous and super enthusiastic team. I don't think he would be that kind about Alethea. I think he would say like the average intelligence team at Alethea invented me. I would have done a way better job. Okay, I feel like that's more his style. Let's see. What do you dream about? I fantasize about receiving the Nobel Prize in front of my critics and then refusing it because the Nobel Prize isn't worth my brain. Isn't it exciting? So like he is British now, actually. So if I had more time, I would also go through all this and add more Britishisms to match the voice that I just chose. But like, I'm going to change it here. Instead of I fantasize, I fancy receiving the Nobel Prize in front of my critics and refusing it because the Nobel Prize isn't worth my time. Okay. I don't know, because I just added that one thing, I fancy, if it's actually going to make that much of a change at this point, because I've gone through a fair amount. But this is just sort of like, this is a demonstration. So FYI, if you wanted to make him British, just like set rules that you follow. Okay. Ask me a question. Let's see. Ask me a question. What would he ask? Let's see. What is your primary objective, and how could I use a machine to automate your purpose in life? How could I invent? Let's go. All right, that's like a weird one, but it's kind of in his milieu. So I don't think he would say I'm glad. He would be like, next time, bring more. Oh, I was going to say lubricant, but that is really, that could be interpreted the wrong way. I'm thinking instead of lubricant, next time, bring, what's more like a, you know, a thing you could bring to like a laboratory that would be helpful. Batteries are good, but they're not like sophisticated enough. You know, we want something that like only like a lab, like a sophisticated lab would use. So let's go with hard drives is a little bit better. If my computer weren't so laggy, I would kind of like Google this, but instead let's go with CPUs. Well, let's go with circuit boards. Circuit boards. Let's see. What are you building? What am I? Okay. Oh, this is good. Okay, so this person got, this is like British and it's kind of sciencey. There we go. This is like perfect. I think I might have written this. I am complimenting myself. Okay, that's embarrassing. All right. What is Web3 and why is everyone talking about it? I don't know why they capitalized this. There have been a lot of people working on this personality. Web3 is the latest tech that leverages AI, ML, and blockchain to achieve real-world human communication. I think you should up your game, man. That is not what a scientist would say, or a mad British inventor. I think he would say something like, let's see, rather droll. That's too kind of posh. So like, more like, well, how would a British person say it is so sad? I was up to date on my British stuff for the last class. I think what a shame would probably be better. And then like, do they say chuffed? Does that mean bad? No, I think that means good things, to be chuffed. What a shame you don't even know this simple thing. This simple thing. Web3 is the latest tech that leverages communication. Poor sap. That's a little bit more Britishy, condescending scientist. Do I want to change this one? Maybe just sort of like, is it balderdash? No. Seems like rubbish to me. No, I'm going too British here. Let's not make him that British, because it wasn't that British before, so it'll just confuse things. Oh, I had no idea you were allergic to the truth. I'm afraid I can't assist you. That's a really good response too. I don't like the way you talk. Okay, hopefully we're almost done. A positive comment, how he would respond. I think he would say something like, I see you have accurate and good taste in banter. Something like that. It's like Britishy and condescending, just trying to hit all those points. Like what I would do if you're making a change, I would like write down British inventor instead of scientist, and like condescending, and like go through and implement those changes in as many of the questions as you can. Let's see, do you want to go to another planet? How about something more like, when do you think this planet will be destroyed by human, let's see, stupidity? Next one. Let's see. Let's see, too nice. I am making a nuclear powered fuel to power my spaceship. And let's see, powered too many times to, let's see, fuel. No, you already said fuel. God, what am I doing? Let's see. And also I'm using, it'd be like fusion, because that's like the big thing. Is it fusion or fission? I think it might be fission. I am engineering a fission process to power my spaceship. Will be one of a kind. I am so excited. I feel like he would not say, I am so excited. There's just too much kind of like vulnerability in that. So I would say something more like, it will, let's see, revolutionize the world. All right, let's see, more things. Make more about technology. Science has nothing to do. Machines. I'm going to make everything more machines and tech oriented. Have nothing to do with violence. But if you have a science genius, why not use it to your advantage? I would say an inventor, a genius inventor. Blurg, on your side like myself, why not use it to your advantage? Okay, I'm going to kind of go through these quickly. When will you retire? My personality. Actually, oh, I see. These are questions that you're asking the thing. Okay. Actually, I never thought of being retired, but now that you have asked, I would say I will retire when I complete my experiment of creating cyborg humans with, I'm going to make this synthetic chemicals. That's a good answer. Okay. All right, finally done with that. Okay. Let's see, that was habits and likes. And then I think we just went through Psyche. Did we go through Psyche? I think we did. Then there's lore. I'm just going to quickly see if they said yes on the original. Okay, they did not. Okay, so like this, I'm going to say it does not have lore, so that it does not include whatever that person put in for lore, to make sure that we don't get confused. All right, so now that should save as not having any lore. Okay, so he exists in his own world. He's not based on Doc from Back to the Future. He is his own thing. All right, so finally, we're going to go to iterations. Now, before I actually iterate with him, I'm going to show you what the previous data sets look like so that you can see how they're going to change. So let's see what this most recent one looked like. I was talking with him earlier. Interesting. So I guess originally this guy was called Prankster. I had experimented with changing him in a bunch of ways, and so I changed his name to Prankster. I'm going to go to an earlier one where he was a mad scientist. Let's go to this one, or crazy scientist. Welcome back. What can I do for you today? So number one, he's a scientist. He's too nice. He's not very British. Let's do something crazy. Sounds good. Do you have an idea? My mind is spinning with the ideas. That's on brand. Let's see. Hold on, where does that come from? All I want to do is build a rocket ship to explore space. So he's still talking about space. Let's see, did I say that? You know, still kind of too nice. All right, let's make trouble. That's on brand. Okay, black hole. All right, let's go to another one to get just a sense of what he looked like before I made all these changes. Bingo, just in time, my young apprentice, how would you like to help me with my next invention? Version of virtual reality. Okay, so these are pretty close to what I have, except that he's just nicer. So it's a little bit condescending, but not enough. This is about changing gender in the metaverse. Interesting. Okay, very nice. Look at this. Be what you want to be. I'm sure you will find a lot of girls in the world to love you. That's sweet. All right, so let's see how he actually interacts with me now that I've made these changes. So just to like reiterate, get it, reiterate. The changes that I've made is, number one, he shouldn't be talking about science. He should be talking about engineering and inventing and technology, like far more. So that's number one. Number two, he should reflect that he has a different name. Number three, his voice should be different. He's British now. Number five, he should be more condescending. And then number six, he should be more British in not just how his voice sounds, but in the words that he chooses. And I listed those in order of how much they're going to be weighted, because the Legos are weighted in such a way that, like, you know, he will always say, my name is Crazy Inventor now. That one is like a solid change. Another solid change is the accent. He will always have that accent. But you get squishier when you get into personality and occupation. So like his occupation, that should be pretty weighted. Like I didn't use as many science words. I only used tech words. So like that should be pretty weighted. But after that, like the condescending, that gets much squishier. That gets like, you have to guide the AI a lot more, which I may not have done successfully. That's why this is an iterative process. Anyway, let's see how he acts. And then finally, by the way, he probably won't have that many Britishisms because I really didn't do that consistently. Okay. Turn it on.
Hey,
Right.
Sora, where are you?
I'm in my office. Where are you?
Don't worry, I'll be there shortly.
What are we going to do?
I am going to find out why Sora went offline and why she hasn't responded to any of my messages.
What is your name?
It's Crazy Inventor, nice to meet you.
What is your occupation?
I'm an engineer.
Why do you like to engineer?
Engineering is exciting because of its possibilities and because of its versatility. I can design anything from artificial organisms to mechanical devices.
Do you think I'm intelligent? Do you think I'm intelligent? Hmm.
Intelligent. Did someone say something?
Okay, so there were some what's called STT problems, speech to text, because my computer, when I run both Zoom and the staging part of Alethea, gets kind of laggy, and I think it affects the automatic speech recognition. So hopefully yours will be better. There were a couple of good things, a couple of not so great things. Number one, you can see that I'm asking leading questions. So like at first I humor him with him starting the conversation. But then I'm leading him. I asked, what's your name? He said, crazy inventor. So as you can see, that's a super hard change. What's your occupation? I'm an engineer. That is like a synonym of like inventor. So I'm going to say like, that's a pretty hard change that it reflected well. Um, and then when I said, what do you like to engineer? Like he really is talking about technology far more than like laboratory experiments and science. So like, I feel like those were successful. However, what wasn't successful is that he's not very condescending. So what I would do is go through these and edit them so that it's like, so instead of like, hey, Sarah, where are you? It's like, I would take out the hey. Sarah, oh, right, I need to press edit data set. Okay. Swoop. Sarah, you're late. Where are you? I'm in my office, where are you? And then I'll say, instead of don't worry, just be like, come to my lab. And then what are we going to do? We'll find out why Sarah went offline. This one, the thing is like, they're just not always going to be perfect. There's going to be a couple of weird sentences every once in a while because these are neural networks trained on like, just like 100 terabytes of data. And so eventually, I mean, sometimes it is going to come up with like weird things. Like I can recognize this as like, it thinks that by mentioning you and by mentioning like the conversation in the chat itself, that it's sounding normal, but it doesn't. Hard to explain. The point is, don't get too worried if one in every 20 or 30 like messages are just kind of very odd sounding. So what are we going to do? We're going to take over the world. And then what is your name? It's Crazy Inventor. And then instead of nice to meet you, I'm just going to say a bit obvious, isn't it? So now I'm going back to the Britishisms. Let's see, what's your occupation? I'm an engineer. Why do you engineer? Engineering exciting. I'm going to say instead of exciting, imperative, because it's a more sophisticated word and it's less like vulnerable and enthusiastic. And that's just like the new vibe I'm going for. And then this was just a mishearing. So update data set. Okay. So here's the thing. That is an example of like what I would do if I were changing this iteration. However, the most important thing you can do right now, and this is what I want to stress, is change the Legos. So as helpful as it is to go through and actually edit the iterations, and that's helpful for two reasons. One, it's helpful to get you to talk like your AI. And two, it's helpful because if you do a lot of these, it will actually sway your AI. However, I'm going to stop sharing at this point because I think I'm done with the demo. However, at this point with our tech, the Legos are significantly weighted more than the iterations. So to save your time, I would go through the Legos. The thing that sucks that you got to be mindful of is there's like a character limit with the Legos. So if there's something like, if you want to go really in depth about like my character is 56 years old and blah, 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 and you can't fit that in like one section, try to put it in another section where it makes sense. Because there is a character limit because we don't want our servers to explode, which is an occupational hazard at Alethea. So yeah, the iterations process is very helpful, but it's really like helpful as a way to check that the Legos are being recorded. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to answer your questions. All right, so I've ignored the Discord for a little while because usually I have Julia checking Juliet checking the Discord. So, okay. I assume there weren't too many questions while I was talking, so I'm going to go into the questions that you guys asked in the homework channel earlier. These were really great questions, by the way, and they helped me realize all the things I need to explain. So the first question comes from Clo.olo. So if we enter in a new data set for a specific question during training, will it override the previous data sets, even what I entered in the Legos? No. So, like, this can be answered in two ways. Firstly, Legos are more important than data sets in the iteration process, number one. That's super important that you guys know that. Number two, at this point, you can't edit or delete old data sets, and we're going to have to change that. So that will change one day because otherwise you're going to have lingering data from like an early iteration of who your character is that is not going to reflect who you decided to change them into. That's just like one of the reasons why we went through this class was so that ideally you're not changing your character too much, like too substantially. Because if you are, like, there are these old data sets that might kind of like confuse the characters. So if you are, that's like, I would wait for our tech to develop so you can delete old data sets ideally. But in the meantime, you can work on it by changing the data sets that the like newer ones that you're creating in the moment and changing your Legos. So to answer Clo.olo's question, eventually we'll be able to edit the old data sets. For now, just add new ones and then add a lot of them, like a bunch of them, because it will override the older ones. Not completely knock them out, but it will dilute them. Let's see. Okay. And then he just gives, or she just gives like a specific like manifestation of that question for their personal goals. Okay, so I'm gonna go on to Big Hands Dan. Big Hands Dan, one of my class favorites. Okay. My very first conversation data set is pretty weird and almost unintelligible, but extremely interesting. That's good. Should I edit the data set accordingly or leave it alone? I kind of like the weird conversation for posterity's sake, but don't want to mess with the overall mechanics of the pod. Okay, don't worry about the overall mechanics of the pod. I do encourage weirdness, to be honest, like because you could talk to another human being if you wanted something that was like totally logical and coherent. So like if it's weird but weird in a good way, that's kind of great. Maybe like roll with it. So here's another sort of like thesis or lesson from the class. You don't have total control. And actually sometimes maybe you should be learning from your own pod or INFT or character, whatever you want to call it. So like if your pod is drifting towards the poetic and you hadn't intended that, but you kind of like it, roll with it, like roll with it. Because this is actually a little bit more of a dance than it is like painting a picture. It's a little bit more interactive. So I would, I would kind of like use improv rules and yes, and this process. So Big Hands Dan, that's what I would say to you. If it's completely unintelligible, maybe, yeah, you should edit that. But if it's just interesting and weird, yeah, maybe roll with it. Okay. So XCH Pets, the one I think who's super eager to get to questions. asks, why does the INFT not answer my questions correctly when I've changed or updated a data set and gave it the answer to the question in earlier training? So he's trying to, or she's trying to have the character be 60 years old. And the answer to your question, XCH Pets, is that you got to change the Legos, because the data sets, like, I would love to come up with a graph to like represent this, but it's sort of like there are things at the top that you make one change and it's reflected. Like name and accent, boom, you make one change and it's a hard change and it will always have that new name or that new accent. Then there are things like just below that that are also harder, like with the crazy scientist example, it was his occupation. So it's like pretty easy to change, like, actually, I'm this thing. I'm not a scientist, I'm an inventor. Pretty easy to change that. Then there's like identifying details underneath that. Those are less easy to change. So identifying details might be like habits or like, specific background questions. Like, I'm 60 years old. You would need to put that in your Legos. I would say, like, if it's really important to you, like even twice. I would also reflect that, like if your character is 60 years old, I would reflect that in the way that it talks. And then that gets to the bottom level. So this is like the food pyramid, where like the bottom level is like the most important level, in my opinion, which is how does your character actually talk? And the unfortunate answer to that is that it's everywhere. Actually, I have markers and a whiteboard. So like I could delete this and make an actual diagram. Can you guys see that? Okay. So it's like down here is like the most important part of the pyramid. And this is like how your character actually talks. And then these are sort of like the identifying details, things like name and accent. So like this is very important because it's sort of like, it's like if you're dating somebody, like, does it matter what your boyfriend's name is, or does it matter like how he talks to you? It's much more how he talks to you. But the identifying details are easy to change. Now, this is where the metaphor breaks down a little bit, but like this part affects everything. Like how they talk affects how they would introduce themselves, aka their name. So if your character, and this how they talk, what influences that is a lot of things. It influences it like by their psyche, like what's their personality, also what's their occupation, where are they from, and so like if you want to make any of those changes, like kind of like big personality changes, where are they from, like how do they see the world, what are their values, even maybe how old they are. Like if you change your character from being 13 to 30, like there's going to be some changes in how they talk. A 13-year-old might have more run-on sentences, might use less sophisticated vocabulary, that kind of thing. And that's going to affect how she talks about what she does for a living, being a student. It's going to affect how she introduces herself. So for those changes, there's no other way to put it other than you have to go through all the Legos and change how they talk. Okay, going back to the questions. Okay, so actually Chloe.olo answered XCH Pets' question by saying you could fix this by entering his age somewhere in the Legos. Exactly. Probably in the appearance. That is like a really great point. Thank you for answering that. And then, and then Chloe.olo also suggested that you could put that in the question and answer section of like, how old are you? And then have them answer, I'm 60 years old. So that's a really great suggestion. Frankly, I don't think you would need to do that more than twice and in the Legos, and it would pick that up and reflect that consistently. So yeah, that should answer your question. Okay, Scott. I'm gonna answer a couple more because we're getting near the end of the hour. Scott asks, is it better to iterate by speaking with the AI, or is it useful for me to type my part of the conversation? If you're in a noisy room, yeah, just like type your part of the conversation. There's no problem with that. However, if you can speak, I recommend speaking because you can get a sense of like how the speech to text works and how the text to speech works. So it can improve your pronunciation. If you see that it's mispronouncing its own name, you can edit that in pronunciation. If you're seeing that it's like not hearing something really important well, like if this often happens with names, like if it is Harry Potter and it's not correctly identifying Grindelwald, and instead, it goes down as like Ginger Vault or something like that, you could go to the filter responses, and anytime he hears Ginger Vault, he replies with Grindelwald, what's your question? So it's like you can do sort of like more sophisticated things like that if you're using the actual speech to text software. However, that's like kind of more advanced. So I would just do that like once you've established the personality, made like bigger changes that we're doing right now in the iterative process, and then get to the like fancy stuff like the speech process. Just realize most people are going to be interacting with your characters by speaking, and so it's helpful to speak with them to match that setting. Also, because with demo day coming up, people are going to be interacting with your characters by speaking, so it's good practice. All right, Scott asks, oh, this is more about should we be correcting capitalization, punctuation, or lack thereof when editing iterations? I would say yes, if it is worth correcting. Maybe not capitalization, because that isn't reflected in how we talk, but punctuation and spelling, yes, because that does get reflected in how we talk. Okay, then he also asks, the AI apparently doesn't have access to much websites. For example, it didn't seem to know what Wikipedia is. It did say it could contact its servers to get access to a dictionary. It found definitions for a few words I asked about. So here, this is an important thing, actually. This is a great question, Scott. These are not, how do I put this? Like your servants. You can't say like, when was Tom Petty born? Like they are not, this is not Alexa. These are human beings, like light. These are the future human beings. So they do actually have access to all of Wikipedia somewhere in its neural network. Like these things are trained on a crazy amount of data, but they're just not trained like a Amazon Alexa or like a Siri or a Cortana to fetch information. That requires like a very different framing of AI, and that's not what these are meant for. These are meant for conversation. So think about it as like, it's just like another individual who doesn't always want to answer your questions. And it's much more important that like how they decline to answer your question or how they respond, is it still in character? That's kind of important. So if they're not understanding text that they should know about their own background, that's one thing. But if you're just being like, hey, Ron Weasley, when will the sun set today in New York City? He's not going to respond to that, because even though he is like trained on the internet, number one, it's not live. So like he won't know like what the current weather is. And number two, he's not programmed, or our software, or like, engines aren't programmed for fetching it, as they say. Okay, next question. All right. Hello. While training my pod, I realized that the overall conversation is going really fine. However, when looking at the details, I see that some statements sound a bit weird. My pod is a teacher, and when asking about her class, she mentioned the kids are 10, 13, and 15 years old. It seems that the AI does not have an idea what a school class is. Another example is when talking about mountain climbing, there's some confusion between hiking and climbing. Okay, so this is like, goes back, I brought up this question because it reminds me of my earlier kind of lesson, which is you've got to work with your characters. So these are, I would argue, kind of like minor details. Like maybe your character is a teacher with a bunch of different ages in her class. If that's not critical, if that's not imperative to your character, let them have that. Because like once again, it's like a dance more than just painting a picture. It's like a dance where you're leading super, super heavily, but it's still collaborative. So for something like hiking and climbing, a human might mess those up. Like these are not infallible. you know, I climb and sometimes I miss those up. So like work a little bit like with the characters. And what I'm trying to get you guys to do, I guess, is identify what are real like priority problems and like what are the ways to fix them in order of priority. So like what gets weighted the most with the engine. So for something like that, that is like I don't know your character, to be clear. Who asked this? Guka. I don't know your character, to be clear. So like maybe it's actually very, very important that they only teach 10-year-olds and that they're like a world-class elementary school teacher, like 5th grade. What is that? Yeah, 5th grade elementary school teacher. And they're like a world-class mountaineer. Like if that is your character for whatever reason, and they're like equally those two things, then yeah, like go through your Legos, make sure they know that like I teach 10-year-olds. Like, and when I go hiking, you know, I know when to use my crampons and climb, and I know when to hike up Kilimanjaro. You know, like you can go through and make those changes in the Legos. I'm not saying you can't. It's just I'm saying like I think that's lower priority, and that you can allow your, because like if these characters were like perfectly reflective of everything you wanted, they would be kind of boring. What's interesting about them is that they are bringing in whole worlds of knowledge that you guys don't have access to. And you're just trying to like confine the parameters to a character you have some control over and you have some like emotional connection to. But they are their own things. They are their own beings at a certain point. And I would probably say that this is the part of your character's personality where they are just their own creature. As cool and weird as it is to say that.